We are going to have a live today with Transformational Connection founder, one of the founders, John Thompson. And we have Laura Randmo with us and me, Christina. And we are going to talk about Transformation Connection, what it is, what's the practice is, and discover around training, like what's gonna the 3rd of January we will have a new training beginning for surrendered leadership, and we're gonna discover like what is it, and to whom it is, and what are you gonna learn there, and what's the what benefits you have when you leave. So hello, John.
Good morning.
How is it for you at the moment to be here?
I'm starting to feel a little bit playful. There's some some intensity, like some discomfort, like a feeling of like I'm gonna be representing something and I'm gonna be standing for something, and that takes energy in this moment.
Mm. Good.
Why good? Why
we,
can't it
we,
be more
we
easy?
like your energy. So yeah, um, it's a bit of an awkward situation also. I think most of who has done the practice know that the name of the practice has changed, and don't really want to go into that, like why and how, but it's kind of weird to talk about here about the practice that we cannot even name how it was named, or due to some illegal uh, yeah, so yeah, we're gonna talk about transformational connection and the new name of the practice. Can you share a bit, like why that kind of name, or what does it really mean, transformational connection? How do you see it?
Yeah, we've Sean, the other co-founder, came up with that name like 5 or 6 years ago, and it really touched me. And I wrote a blog post on it, which was kind of like poetry for me. I spent months writing this thing on transformational connection, and it really came from my heart. And it felt like the thing that happens within the practice. It's like, oh, this is the thing that we love about the practice. This is the thing we see happening over and over again through the practices of like we come more closely into connection with each other in profound ways. And that experience itself is transformative in and of itself, even though it's actually just connective. And it reminds me of when me and Sean first did a practice together. It was like, wow, it was uncomfortable to do it, but like, holy, like 45 minutes of doing that together. And it was like a ceremony, like a psychedelic ceremony or something. But it was just two people being in real connection together and really looking at each other and speaking what was alive, and like not speaking anything that wasn't deeply meaningful. So it connected us, like we felt this visceral sense of like, okay, we've been friends for all these years and we're really good friends, but now like we're more present to each other. We're more connected. We're more like, don't know how to describe it, but some like shared knowing. We're really here on this planet together, and we've just seen each other deeply, and it's almost like we've become more than ourselves somehow. Of like, but also from a transformational lens, which was what we were interested in at the time and still are. It was like, hey, this is leading to more transformation than if I had had a coaching session or done therapy or done something specifically to create transformation. It was like, wow, this is leading to all kinds of transformations, and actually all we've done is like connected in a very specific, profound way. So it seemed like the best thing to do for transformation, and yet it kind of was more than that as well. It was like about actual just connecting in more to what's already here and what's real and with each other. So the two things kind of go together. There's something magical about this way of connecting in terms of the transformational potential. But at the same time, it's just a way of connecting that is magical in and of itself. And from that place, you might even lose the desire to transform because, like, where's the to get? Like, you're so here, and it's incredible.
Okay. Is it like, well, uh, for me as a maybe how to say that, as a maybe a group leader, when I represented the new name, there was some kind of like hesitation, like, is it this transformation? Is it like a promise?
Right.
Is it like happening every time? It's like very curious to, how do you say that? Like, can you promise to me something like this? Can you?
It's a nice question, a good question. I don't feel I can promise that, or yeah, need to or want to. But I can say hand on heart that these practices are the most transformational thing I've experienced, and have witnessed other people, the ripple of, yeah, seen thousands and thousands of other people go through similar things. So it feels honest to actually say, like, yeah, this is the thing that tends to happen here. This is, and we believe it is going to happen, and how that's going to look, we don't know, and how it might be for you, and maybe it doesn't suit you, and so it's not. There's no guarantee, but there is an honest, like, hey, this is what we've witnessed from 15 years of committing our lives to this and taking it around the world and sharing it and developing it and trying to distill what it really is.
Yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I was just kind of teasing you. Because yeah, I kind of felt the same when I got this question, like, about the new name, and it's, yeah, to me also, it's not any kind of promise. It's just a possibility, and the high possibility transform to happen in a practice like this. And I have experienced it in like hundreds of times during the practice, that what presence can do.
Mm.
Mm.
I have like, I think it's a half, not fully thought yet, but I still want to bring it in. So I would say that there are like two important things about this practice. One is presence, and the other is connection. And and I have very often like led more towards the present side, because this is maybe something that really touches me. But now I'm thinking, like, just when you're speaking about the transformational connection, I'm like, okay, let me look more into the connection side. And what I'm being with now is just like connections between people is like a key thing in life in general. Like, this is like a lot what our life is about. We are born from connection to connection to the family, then we build relationships and so on. And there's like a lot of crap happening in our connections in life. And And now I'm thinking like, oh, I guess this practice can transform our connections. Can you say more like why does it happen in this practice? Because I've seen it happening like
Yeah, I mean, I see it a bit like a lab in some ways where we get to experiment and discover more of what's actually happening in our connections. And when you realize, like, oh wow, I've just been taking out anger on people with my girlfriend or with my colleagues, or because I had this need that I didn't even know I had. And now, actually, when I'm in touch with the need, I can just share that, and people love me for it, and I get closer. And before, I was pushing people away from it. It's like that's the kind of discovery I had, and thousands of people have when we really put presence on what's actually alive in the connections between us.
yeah. So we like there's a lot of times when we are not aware what we're actually doing in connections,
Right.
and then in this practice we're actually like becoming aware like what the hell is happening between us actually.
Right. And hopefully we, as leaders of these groups, we create space for people to explore and discern and express more deeply. And the impact of that on, you know, I think it's the longest Harvard study on happiness showed, like a 50-year study showed, it all comes down to our relationships, essentially, like well-being in life. And then if I think of most things that beyond that, most things that people care about, like maybe successful career, that's probably going to come down to how good you are at relating to certain key people. And the shifts in those relationships at the foundational level, like when there is a natural transformation happens, that's like you're now on new ground together in a whole different setting, it can make, yes, such difference. And having spoken to the positive, it's also like the challenging side of it. Like sometimes we discover that deeper layer of what's actually going on, and we don't know what the hell to do with it. And suddenly we're way more vulnerable than we used to be, and people aren't liking what's there. And so as we get into these deeper territories, it can also be really challenging. For me personally, it always seems like better, even when it's hard, because I can just feel like, oh, I'm actually more in contact with who I am now. I'm actually like my head is out of the sand a little bit more, and I can feel how this is going to help me, even if it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's like when I go into it, it's like I'm so used to not being me in some situations because something, whatever happened, the trauma and whatever. And then suddenly, like, this place is touched, and like, what the hell I'm gonna do now? But like in this practice, we actually create like space for even this like shaky, unknown time or moment, and see where it leads.
Right, and those like unowned places in ourselves, like classic shadow work or Jungian, what we don't own owns us. Like getting to be able to own those places that have been owning us, like they've been kind of running things from the background without us even knowing. When we can actually integrate those and feel them and be seen in that, and then again, there's a transformational experience. The ground changes of how you were and what your life is going to be like.
Well, we kind of touched it, but I think it would be good to go on here because we might have people listening like who has never done the practice or just happened to coincidentally came to listen, and can we go over like what are the basics for transformational connection, like from where we navigate, or like.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it starts with actually having a bit of space to feel yourself a little bit more, almost like, yeah, well, mindfulness or meditation, where just a bit of space to notice what's happening in your experience a little bit more, like just turning attention on yourself. And then from that place, then maybe being in a pair exercise and coming into contact with someone else who's doing the same thing, and then being there together, maybe in eye contact, like an invitation to be in eye contact, but also to stay really close to yourself. Like maybe eye contact after a while feels too much, so you close your eyes, and but you're being together, and you're really paying attention to what's actually happening when you're in connection together. And we'll often do that without words initially to give people a strong visceral sense of what it's actually like, and trying to bring acceptance to it. Like, okay, it can be really intense coming into connection with someone else. Can you notice that? And can you maybe learn to speak it? Like, oh yeah, being with you, I feel all this nervousness. Or so supporting people to speak what's there for them and to hear what's there for other people. And it's such a simple thing, but it is the most transformational thing I've done, we see time and time again when people actually do that and face potential discomforts, but also face amazing feelings as well that can come up. Yeah, things just open and it's wow, and people who didn't know each other feel incredibly connected very quickly, in a heartfelt way and in a visceral way and in a like a soul way if we're lucky.
Yes, but I can imagine it can also be scary, like because in like everyday life we have gotten all kind of experience in like expressing our truth, or what are we feeling and stuff. Like I imagine it's gonna come up during the practice. It's
Yeah, I mean, for some people, I imagine very quickly. For others, maybe not for months, and then but then suddenly something happens with someone that touches something from the past, or yeah, I think it will be scary at some point, and I'm just like, it's so worth it. It's like it is scary to be alive fully sometimes, and
yeah.
like being able to actually confront those fears and get over them, and the bliss on the other side of that, or the satisfaction. Yeah, it just feels totally worth it.
Mm.
I think I'm not sure if I remember like exact moment, but there was definitely a moment when was the first time when I expressed myself in a real deep vulnerable way, like like straight from the core of my pain or the need that I like. It's like I never ever expressed need from that depth, and it was like my reality was like, if I'm gonna say it out, I'm definitely going to be like rejected, hurt, or whatever, something like that happens, and then like still like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Because in some level, in a like a mind level, I knew it's just my psyche reacting, and like, yeah, that like kind of structure or like theory helped me probably. Yeah, yeah, and it's still scary, but now I have like experiences like, okay, I've tried it many times, it's still as scary, but it's so worth it. Like I'm usually not rejected. Maybe something happens, it's possible, but still, like, that's the risk. It's so worth it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have principles in the practice, and Can you talk about a little about like what are the key points in the practice?
Yeah, one of the principles is trusting experience or trusting your experience. And I remember when I first started to kind of get that or the significance of that, and seeing the ways I would actually turn away from myself and totally unconsciously. I didn't know it was happening until I started to see it. And the consequences of that are so huge because it's like you are yourself. So if you turn away from yourself, then like you and the world is getting less of who you actually are. And learning to like trust, continually trust, even when it doesn't make sense, like what's like actually happening within us, and to dare to move with it, even if like a week later we might realize that we were totally off with what we were going with. It felt like some kind of permission slip for me that not only helped me to live my life more fully, but it led to more magic. It was like some of the things that I wasn't trusting actually contained like immense wisdom or intuitions, or and then when I did follow them, it was like, oh, it found a resonance with someone else, or in some cases it rustled people's feathers and people reacted strongly to it, but I could still tell like I have to do this, like this is actually right for me. And a lot of people are kind of used to doubting themselves in certain ways or shaming themselves or judging themselves, and what's really nice is to see people actually kind of discover the gold that's already in them, that they were kind of discarding, that they'd learned to discard to survive in various ways. And learning to trust your experience more, it's integrating more of who you are, and it allows for new pathways to move in your life.
So are you saying that if I feel shame about something, I should trust that and it's actually fine?
Well, obviously one principle is not going to solve too much about about life, but because yes, it's all very well to trust something, but then what? Okay, I'm trusting I've got violent rage. What should I do? Should I smash the window? Should I repress it? Should I tell someone? So absolutely, like the complexity of how to integrate what we're experiencing is still challenging, but it definitely helps to have a yes there in the first place than a no.
Yeah, so the way how I see it, if I say yes to like just in principle, okay, I just have that strange experience, rage, shame, whatever. I just open like a door to see like what's happening in this experience. Like because if I'm if the whole life I'm used to like suppressing like rage, anger, whatever, it's like I never opened the door to see like what's actually happening there. Why, like, where does it even come from? Does it like direct me to some direction where, like, towards a need or a thing? It's like, yeah,
Right, and there can be so much variety with that. So I started to discover anger in me early on in these practices, and it was really confronting. I wanted to put it away. It's like, oh, that's not very friendly. And then Sean would actually get angry at me for not bringing my anger, which was interesting. And then I started to bring my anger. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to start bringing this. And it contained so much clarity. It was unbelievable. And he was so grateful for it.
yeah,
But then other times I've discovered rage, and it's like it takes me down to, 1-year-old self that wasn't held enough at night. And a lot of the things we'll discover you can kind of integrate quite quickly and get a sense of, and others are like those deep existential life challenges that you might not make much traction with, and it might be really confronting. But again, personally, I'd rather have some consciousness there than to be just playing out scripts unconsciously.
yeah. And I think the other thing about trusting the experiences, it points to that nothing about me is wrong. Like all of the parts in me have validation to exist in the world, and I don't have to remove any part of me. I just have to like integrate, look into it, kind of like take
Right.
ownership of that thing.
Right.
And as a general thing, I am complete, or what's the word, whole. I'm
Yeah.
whole. I'm not like part of me is wrong, I have to like put it away. It's the like a general way how people tend to, I don't know, feel themselves, I think.
Mhm.
Mm.
Exactly. And that links to a wider paradigm of realization around wholeness and like IFS, no bad parts, and integral theory, which is about integrating the good in everything. And it feels like there is kind of a cultural realization of that, of like, oh yeah, not wrong essentially. It's just about integrating, and that integration needs discernment, and it's not always easy, but it's very relieving.
Yeah, I think it's like a kind of like a new paradigm in general. Like I don't know when it's started to kind of flip this way around, that it's fine, everything is fine about us, but there's a lot of different like, I don't know, methodologies which are really like trying to fix people. Like it's a very general statement, but
Mhm.
I see it as like a paradigm shift, like from like there's something wrong with us, we need to fix, we need to get better, and this practice is like, no, we don't need to get better. It is just we are already fine. We just can become more aware of things.
And paradoxically, that is transformational.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's liberating.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was the one principle.
That's the one.
What else do we have?
We have owning experience.
How
And
do you do that?
yeah, this was I was it made me so happy learning this principle. It was like, oh, it's so obvious. Why have I never thought of that? Like, wow. Like, oh, we can actually communicate in a way where you're revealing your unarguable experience. So thinking of conversations where you get into right, wrong arguments and all different things that happen in connection, and then like, oh, I can own my experience and then bring it back to what is actually happening in this present moment in me on an experiential level. And that is kind of, that's just the truth. Like if someone tries to argue against that with me, it doesn't make sense because it's like, oh no, that was, I mean, maybe it's changed by the time they're starting to argue with me, but like we can actually pull reality back to something that we know is true.
Mm.
And that's what's cool in these practices is when everyone's doing that together, we've just got information, we've just got truth coming through. But relationally, the difference between being slightly aggressive in a communication and then bringing it back to like, oh, I actually need this thing, it transforms the relationship. So our ability to own our experience, which isn't easy, and we don't even highly experienced practitioners don't manage it all the time because it's like taking responsibility, taking ownership for what's actually alive in us, rather than making objective assessments. And not to cut out that completely from communication, like these are principles, they're not rules, they're just guides that can help us. And I mean, it links to nonviolent communication is similar in that way. And it first of all, it takes you closer to yourself, which feels good and nourishing. And second of all, it inspires others typically, or it's going to help you in the relationship. Certain circumstances, it might still lead to a challenge in a relationship, but at least you know that that's real. Like you're no longer faking it in some way in that relationship. which also then links to a sense of surrender, which isn't one of the principles, but it's like probably our biggest guiding idea. Like when you, if you are going to live that way with trust and with ownership, then in a way you are surrendering a certain kind of control.
Mm. Yeah, that's one of my favorite principles. Also the hardest, I think.
Right.
Because it's sometimes it's so good to blame others.
Exactly. Exactly. It really does feel real this time.
Okay, so we
And
have trust.
even
Yeah.
and even with that, there's still nuance because sometimes like that expression of anger towards someone else is can be positive, like it can hold clarity. So there's still nuance, but as a general thing, it's like for most of us, it's like, oh yeah, this is really useful. This really actually takes us deeper into ourself and into what's actually there in our connections.
Mm. Yeah, and to me it actually brings like the power back to home.
Exactly.
Because when I'm owning my experience, this is something I can navigate. I can never navigate the other people or what they are saying to me or what's happening with them. It's only me who I can be in charge.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, just this thing you're saying, Christina, I think because of this principle, I have like this indication in my life, like whenever I'm blaming someone or I feel that um, why am I getting not what I want? or or a thing like that. Like something is not the way how I want it to be, and I feel like I can't do anything about it, and I feel like this weak about it. Then this is like, okay, what am I not owning here? Or what am I still not seeing here? Like there is something probably in my subconscious that I'm not aware, that I'm not owning. Like I have somehow developed this kind of system for myself.
Mm. And then you need to trust it.
Yeah, because the feeling of when I'm actually owning something in a deep level, that feels always powerful.
Yeah.
And when I don't feel powerful or in my power, in my authority, that's like a sign that I'm not in my deepest ownership for me.
Mm.
Maybe I'm owning like a top layer of something, but layers to go deeper even, which is
Mm.
really cool.
So then what else do we have? Commitment to connection.
Commitment to connection. Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of. That's a practice of deeply honoring yourself and deeply honoring others and like holding that tension of like deeply honoring yourself, deeply honoring all others, or at least all others experience, like what their present moment experience is. And it's also a commitment to connection, like more broadly, like connection to yourself, connection to others, connection to life, like what is connection, like how can I honor the fact that we're already all interconnected, like how can I let that kind of knowing guide me.
I think this practice sometimes has misunderstanding that we need to stay in connection, like I need to want to talk to you or I need to look at into your eyes when I'm talking to you. Can you, is that true, Sven?
Yeah, I think that is true, and to be honest, when we came up with this principle, like there were still codependencies at work in me and Sean that probably aided that understanding of. So we did get a lot of gold of like, wow, if we actually stay in a bit longer than is normally comfortable, and we dare to meet each other in these opposing truths or whatever, like often it leads to magic, and it's totally worth committing to connection in that way more. But for me, like I remember a therapist telling me, you'd rather be hopeless and lonely than walk away. And like I felt my body respond yes to that, and in my mind I'm like, what? Why would I rather be hopeless and lonely than walk away? And that pointed to a codependency that I had. Um, and it took a long time for me to be able to walk away, because in rare circumstances or in certain circumstances, like that's the connective move. That's the truth. That's the way to honor yourself deeply and honor the other person, is actually to walk away. So there isn't actually anything about needing to stay connected in a particular way, because when you look at the more spiritual dimension, or the more interconnected dimension, it's like we're already connected. So this principle is about the honoring. Like, can I walk away and still be honoring myself and the other? Or am I doing it like to withdraw and to kind of create a dynamic to try and lash out at them or try and get what I want? Or so it's the honoring piece will help you discern there, like what's actually going on.
Yeah, for me, it's like having like again like layers of awareness, like awareness of my experience. If my experience is like desire to walk away, and then I'm actually doing the step, there's like a higher awareness in me. It's like, okay, this is happening in connection. I am now turning away, and in that level, I'm like still like staying in connection.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even like kind of like asking the partner, so how is it for you if I'm walking away?
Right. I I did it a lot. I was leading an SAS. We started one in Stockholm last weekend. And for some reason, most times when we sat down in the circle, I wanted to get up and leave. And the first time I thought it was quite funny, like I'm leading, it's the first weekend of the 6 month event, like, okay. And I shared it. It's like, I feel I need to get up and like move out a little bit. And people laughed, but it was really true. And then it kept happening, and I would follow it, and I would kind of start to leave the circle and like really notice, like, would I rather be outside, like, and away from it? And I would start to move towards that. And it's like, no, I actually feel love for these people. I want to be back, but I don't want to be too close. And I was just touching more vulnerable parts in me that needed to like come into connection slowly. And then it's like, oh, where do I want to be in the circle? Like, oh, there, I'm going to go there. And then I'll come into super rich connections with people.
And it's also like can indicate that there's some kind of unsafety in me, and the way how I deal with it is like I kind of pull back, and I actually need to pull back to be a little bit on my own, or like in a like have like space. And it's like if I push myself to actually be in like a very close connection, then I'm running over this need that actually needs different kind of safety, or different kind of I don't know, tenderness or space, or yeah, for me that has been a thing.
So it seems this principle is like the most connected with a boundary. I think also setting the boundaries and having the boundaries, and like, where am I in communication? Is it true for you?
I would. It feels the same for me for trusting experience and owning experience. It does feel true, but I would. It lands the same in me in all three.
Okay.
Yeah, that like yeah, you're getting closer to yourself. You're getting close to your how you want to actually move, and you're doing that with respect for other people.
Okay. So uh, the other principle that I think this is where, to me, everything starts is my body, connection to my body. What can you say about that? Like,
Yes, staying with the level of sensation. It's yeah, on one level, it's can we integrate more of what's happening in our body? Can we connect more to who we are in our body? And it's easy to move away from that and get into abstraction, and the practice is to try to include the wisdom of our body at the very least. But it's also to listen to sensation, the experience of sensation, and go deeper into what experience really is. Because I had an experience last night leading an online SAS of like looking into my experience and like, what the hell is experience? Like, there's layers to it. There's all kinds of things going on. There doesn't seem to be an outside or an inside. There's feelings, there's visions, so it's an invitation to kind of stay with the immediate data of what's happening in your experience, which can get interesting when you come into connection with others, because you start to notice these subtleties, subtle shifts in sensation when you connect with someone. And they're not random, is what, when we start sharing them and checking them with each other, it's like, wow, we feel each other incredibly deeply. And so it's about becoming more sensitive. Like, I can't believe how much more sensitive I am to life and to people now. That was all numb before, or highly numbed.
do you have any, like, because when I'm leading the circles, it seems to me that it's also one of the hardest thing to people to really like know at all, like what they are feeling. Like if you ask like how are you, or they're like, I'm fine, or like, no, I'm good, I'm not thirsty, I'm not hungry. These are the basics. Like,
Right.
but we have so many sensations, like basically every interaction we have with the other person or something, it brings something, if we
Right.
are like precise. But why is it so that most of us are so numb?
I think that's a good question. I mean, I can speak to why I was so like, part of my numbness is being scared stiff on some levels. Like, I have had memories come up last weekend in the SAS from my teenage years of like when I got threatened that I was going to get beaten up by all these older kids, and like I completely froze in that moment, and my identity actually shifted. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't feel I had any support. And my identity actually shifted. Like, I traced it back this weekend. This came up in the circles for me. Like, oh yeah, I started to lie after that because I was in survival mode. I was like, I need to fit into this social situation. So I started lying to try to give people what they wanted to some degree to stay safe. And it actually worked. Like, I didn't get beaten up, but that shaped my life in quite a significant way. And I think most of us can go back to various things where maybe a heartbreak was too big, or a betrayal, and so we've numbed, and we forget that we've even numbed. And part of being in these practices is realizing like, oh, I'm actually numbing myself, and that's a process that's actually taking up energy now to numb myself, and it's innocent because I needed to do that. But then gradually that numbing, when there's safety, that numbing will release, and then you get all new life energy, and you get more emotion, and more sensitivity, and that's possible for everyone. But it's a gradual process, because each of those experiences that we've had needs to be honored as a part of it, and that's where it links to connection. We're actually connecting to what our life has really been like, and we're actually seeing others in what their life is really been like that's actually showing up in the present moment. Like it's all kind of here in that sense data, in the body.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, I remember when I started, uh, it was a big surprise to me how bad I was sensing myself. Like I was a yoga teacher, so I thought I was like all in.
Right.
But during the practice, it showed like yeah, I know where my muscles were, but I didn't know much about my body.
Like connecting your physical body and your emotional body.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah.
What I can feel emotions physically, and yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to say one more thing on this because I don't want people to think that there's a pressure for them to have to be really good at feeling their emotions or anything like that. That's another shadow, I would say, that can come into the practice of like, yeah, but what are you feeling? What are you feeling in your body? Which is going to probably make someone feel more scared and more outside of their body. So the easier question, like for some people, it's still quite easy and that's cool. But for others who struggle with it more, it's like, what are you experiencing is an easier question for people. They might not be able to feel what they're feeling, what their emotions are, but they can start to tell you a bit about their experience, like, oh, I'm thinking this, or noticing my breath is tense, or and that's a nice, an easy doorway in, because it's not about needing to be super sensitive. It's about us being ourselves together and meeting people where they are and meeting ourselves where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have the final one, like being with the other in their world.
Yeah, this one I saw as a kind of secret source or something. It was like when I first witnessed it, it was like, what are they doing? What, like this person's having transformational experiences and yet they're not coaching, they're not trying to change. What are they doing? And it's this really profound way of being with someone exactly where they are and meeting them exactly where they are and getting more shared reality together of what it's actually like in that moment to be them. So it's beyond empathy. It's it gets to this sense of shared reality where it's like, well, we're really in this reality together, and we seem to have a shared sense of really what it's like for each other and what's happening. And it's such a simple thing to do. And that's why I love this element of the practice of being with someone in their world, because it kind of reminds me to look at someone in that way, which I could look at someone any time. I don't that often, but when I do, it's such a net good. It's like can be so focused on what I need to do or how to achieve this thing, or and then it's like, wow, there's actually like a flower in front of me, or there's a person in front of me, and like I can actually shift my attention to look at them and connect with them in a way that's sees their innocence and sees their beauty and establishes something very real with them. And that's the main thing we practice over the 6 months in the upcoming SAS of doing that with each other. And I remember that some of the first retreats I went to, it was like there's a few people I just didn't like and I kind of avoided a bit. And when I came to do this practice with them, I started to see them in more with more nuance, and I could start to see their innocence, and I could start to see why the things that annoyed me, why they were there, and where they had come from. And it started to dawn on me of like, holy fuck, like this is possible to be done with anyone. And it might not be easy to do, and it might take a long time to reveal the more vulnerable parts, but that's the reality that we live in. Like they're there.
Mm.
That was a big paradigm shift for me.
Oh, I want that.
You want what?
Love everybody, even the ones that I hate right now. Well, that's like it's my ego is fighting. It's like no, like these people are annoying and whatever. But I also know that like the most challenging people are the best um, like reflections to show me my shadow and my where I can grow. Yeah, even though it's so annoying and seems impossible. It's I have seen shifts definitely.
Makes me interested in the annoying, like if there's more gold in that, if there's a boundary in there, or if there's some.
Yeah, it's definitely pointing to a vulnerable place where uh, I like I'm scared to get hurt. Probably do get hurt, um, and I'm like feeling unprotected or uh, yeah, something like that happened yesterday in a circle.
Gives me the feeling of wanting to honor the protective parts, like, and even that idea of like the most difficult people show me my shadow the most, like that might be yes, and maybe yeah, that could keep you in. I don't know, but I'm like that protective, honoring your protective parts feels nice to me.
Mm. Yeah, I can sense that this protective, like need to be protected, is a little bit like outside me. Like someone else should protect me. Like I'm too small there to protect myself.
And again, like owning experience, it could be like, oh, I need to own that. It's just about me. But sometimes the owning is like, oh, I actually do need protection, or I want. It's actually I long for protection. I long for protection from you because of this and this.
You mean you, the one, this person who's
Yeah,
threatening to me?
or it might not be. It might be you long for protection from someone else, or you long to be able to protect yourself. Or I wonder where it might take you, or what it might be.
Right now, it just feels like uh, it should be, yeah, outside protection. I don't know if it's that person or it's like someone else, but it, yeah, I think it's more like someone else to protect me from that person.
That feels like it would be nice.
What do you mean? Would be nice.
Like when I tune into you, it's like, oh, that feels like it would be relieving for somehow you to have protection from that person. Is that true?
Yeah, it would feel safe.
Like, I want you to have that protection. That starts coming up in me.
Feels a bit like random or like like maybe I can ask, but I'm not sure if there is even anybody who would give it. It's like the outside seems like unreachable. Like, yeah, I have the need, but I'm not sure if someone will do that.
It brings up my protector instinct, and I can imagine others who would. And that could be explored as well. Like, I don't know where this would go, but this is an example of like something that comes up and
Circles.
we don't actually know where it's going to go or what the, but we kind of explore it together and eventually
Yeah.
get somewhere.
And I feel I'm gonna come in with a new question. So, 3rd of January, you will start a new training in Estonia, in beautiful Avankeskus. And it's called Surrender Leadership Training. Can you tell a bit, what is it? Why is it called so? Or what does it even mean to surrender to leadership? Or...
Yeah. Well, I'd say surrender has been the most useful pointer to me in relation to life. Like, it's that kind of deep for me. When I started to understand what it meant to surrender, to let go of control in a particular kind of way, yeah, it was incredibly meaningful. Like, for me, it's my number one life principle. Like, can I surrender to what's actually real? Can I surrender more fully to life? Can I let myself be lived by life? Can I surrender to something greater than me that obviously exists? So surrendered leadership is a modeling of that, and it's an invitation to more of that. And it's also an invitation to other people's leadership and their self-leadership and their inspiration and their power. And then when you have a group of people who are doing that together, then you get a kind of collective intelligence. So you get profound coherence, you get emergence, you get magic. And it just feels good to me. It feels like rest. It feels more real. It feels like being able to let guards down that can come down and be together in that other place that's just more real, more connective, more nourishing.
I want to bring in maybe like a challenge because like our like circles, surrender leadership circles, can be also very messy and chaotic, and I know that people can be like I'm not sure about that, like this is like I want things to be like clean, like safe, concrete. I understand what's going on there, and like myself, I personally feel like this is mm, like a two-way thing. Like if you make things like very very nice and compact and structured, yes, it can feel safe, but it takes away a lot of other things in a way. So yeah, like can you talk about the messiness?
Well, I can speak to the paradoxical nature of it,
Yeah.
which in some ways you could say is messiness. Another way you could say it's beauty or complexity or just how things are. And the paradoxical nature in this regard would be, well, actually, you can give a very structured, clear, like this is a practice, and the invitation is to surrender together. And if you don't know what that means, I'm happy to give guidance on that. And the other element of this practice is it's to take self-leadership in relation to what's happening. So that's the game. That's what we're doing here. So you're experiencing all this, and we've got these principles that can help guide as well, if you want to use them. So what is your self-leadership? Like, so if that's understood, then people they get to respond to that chaos. Is everyone experiencing chaos? Maybe for someone else it's freedom, maybe for someone else it's beauty. Maybe it's touching this thing for one person, maybe it's touching something different. So in a way, there's a very clear structure, and that structure can lead to any kind of unfolding, and it leads to this idea of emergence, which compared to other kinds of structures might seem chaotic and messy. And my argument there would be like, oh, do you not have any messiness or chaos in your life anywhere? Like, are you able to just avoid that completely? But another answer might be like, yeah, this practice can get chaotic, and I totally understand that this might not be the way you want to spend your time. But there's no guarantee for me that that's part of the surrender, that this is going to be useful for someone. And that's part of the magic of the surrender, is like stuff seems to be happening, and we like there's a movement around this practice, and people are getting a lot of transformational connection from it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, I love that you said, like, are you able to avoid your like life messiness? You don't have any in your life. So surrendered leadership is a little bit like a testing ground of life, or like it shows what life actually is, and how we can meet that or be in it actually without avoiding things, actually like being with it.
Yeah, and it to me, pretty often it's like I'm not even like I don't even know that I'm experiencing actually the same thing in life almost every day. I get connected to it in a practice. It's like I experience something in a practice, and then thinking like, what is it, like why it's happening to me, and then like a few after, it brings like, it's, oh damn, it's like in my life every day, like I'm experiencing it every day with random people, and it's so yeah, it's kind of to me, the surrender practice is like experiencing life in a slow mode, or something like this, so I can see more. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's quite magical. Like that's
Yeah.
like shifts in perception.
Yeah, this like slowness is often a big part in the practice, and to me it also represents like actually waking up to life, like what's real, because we are so used to being in a automatic way of functioning, which is like just like it can be fast, or it can be just like unconscious and not, but the slowness is like eyes opening, like, okay, I'm here. Actually, like what is here?
Mm.
And in that way, it feels like slowing down to speed up. It's like that's going to lead to more functionality and efficiency and goodness.
So, if someone wants to come to this training, is there like something, some level, or I don't know, something you need to be, or to whom is it?
Yeah, you don't need to be a level. You need to have a passion to join based on hearing all of this and having a decent sense of what you're coming into and what the practices are. And anyone who's interested can book a call with me or one of our other leaders to explore if it's a good fit or not. That's it, really. Like, a lot of people just get touched by something linked to these practices or what we've been sharing, and they're like, yeah, I know I need to do this, or I just felt a resonance, and yeah, I'm ready to commit. Yeah, I know it could get intense and chaotic, or yeah, and then that's what I trust the most, and also people coming in knowing that they can leave at any time. It's about looking after yourself, and there's no need to push to get anywhere, and they're the things I want people to know, and then yeah, normally that leads to it being a good fit and a good, really rich experience for people.
Is it also good for your business, for example, if you experience some training like this?
Well, there's layers. There's layers to that. I would say yes. Like, if I think about myself as from a purely business lens, it's like, yeah, I've got better at business, but I've also got better at seeing through business and seeing through why business matters to me. And so there's a non-linear element to it. Like, it might in some cases make you want to quit your business because you realize you're no longer aligned with the values that's behind it. So I would say yes, the chances are this is going to make your business better, but it might give you more than that as well. It might shift your purpose in life, and so you might be no longer caring if that's the most significant thing for you. Not in a nonchalant way of just like, oh yeah, money doesn't matter to me, but just in a true, yeah, I'm purpose driven, and yeah, I like making money and I want to do that, but I'm coming from a different place now.
What are the like main goals if I leave the training? Am I better in something, or?
Yeah, it's very, because what I could say is that you're going to be way more self-aware, which leads to way more choice in your life. You're going to be way more skilled in building connections with people. And then it's kind of up to you what you want to do and what you want to create with more empowerment for yourself and more skill and ability or just enjoyment of connection. Then it's like whatever. They feel like the fundamental forces of like what's underneath everything else. So if you tweak things on that level, then you see transformational change. What that change will be, I don't know, but probably a more meaningful life, probably more deeper connections, probably more humble, probably more spiritual, probably more embodied.
I agree.
I think it's impacted everybody who's done the SAS in a quite deep way. Like, everybody's after the 6 months is like, oh, like that was a thing. So,
Yeah, I would also say that you will probably live with a bunch of people you can always return to, because you experience something that we yeah, definitely. We go everyday lives, we go in our own lives after the training and so on. But I think the closeness that we experience there, and they're kind of like friends forever or something. At least to me, it's some kind of different commitment to each other or something.
I think it's really fun to have like people uh, around that you can just like be honest with. I mean, technically you can be honest with everybody, but it's still a challenge with these people who don't know who haven't experienced transformational connection practice. So just to have like more people who know what's the deal, like, and can respond in the same way, it's really cool.
Yeah, the community side of it is definitely powerful and beautiful that that happens. Yeah, the friendships that get forged in those deep waters, it's amazing. And I love it, like, because I go deep with a lot of people going around the world doing these trainings, and sometimes I don't see people for 5 years or something, but when I get back with them and we're in connection, it's like it just comes back. Like, oh yeah, remember what happened? Wow, that was, and the love just comes back, and the appreciation, and it's amazing to have that. Like now, I feel I've got friends all around the world who, uh, yeah, I appreciate and have a genuine bond with. And that doesn't, yeah, there's friends who I speak to all the time, and that's a different kind of friend, but there's a real care and friendliness for so many people.
Yeah, I wonder if people who are listening, if you have some last questions, we are probably close to wrapping this up.
Just a big welcome, and to reach out to any of us if they want to know any more, or and to invite their courage to join if they're on the edge, to to encourage that leap of faith. Not that they need that. Maybe they do. I don't know.
So yes, if you do have any questions, please send them. And in the meanwhile, I think we could say it out that on a 20th December, 6 o'clock Estonian time, we're gonna have a webinar where we're going to do the actual practice. For those who want to dive in more, we're gonna put the registration up soon in a Heduse group and in Avant page, so you can register for the webinar. And yes, you can actually have a taste of surrender leadership there.
Yeah,
And
I was just thinking like to share a bit about the logistics about the course, because there can be people who come from abroad as well who don't know Tallinn. Local people know we're having it in Avang, which is like a coaching center in Telliskivi, which is a really cool hub with a lot of cafes and restaurants around. You can go during lunch or after in the evening, maybe together. And yeah, and like, what else about the logistics? We have 3 4-day weekends, right? Which means 4 intense days together, which is really cool. I have done many of those now, and it's always like, it's crazy intense, but it's crazy cool to be together like this. Yeah.
and then what else do we have, John? Can you?
Yeah, lots of online stuff in between. So you get 5 one-on-one coaching sessions where you can bring any themes you want to that, or you can get direct coaching on your leadership. We have a monthly whole group call. We have calls where you're in groups of 4 with a leader every month, and you'll be practicing with each other on the course every week as well online. So it's like a couple of hours a week on average, plus a whole curriculum and stuff. But yeah, it works out as a couple of hours each week to kind of keep it going in between those weekends. And yeah, it's a nice tried and tested model. We're on about 55 of these now, I think, that we've run. And there's on the website, there's lots more information as well, and you can reach out if you want any more.
Okay.
Thank you for these questions. It's really nice to talk about it all and share our experiences, and also get a chance to speak about this under the new naming. Feels good, so that we've got more materials for people to learn about it all.
Yeah, it's good for me also to go over everything, like from the zero.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always good
There's
to go
always
back.
I've got,
something new. Even
Yeah.
if we talk about the principles for I don't know how many times, it's always like good to like feel them through again, and like it touches like some new places.
Yeah.
It's always fresh somehow.
Yeah. I don't know if we don't have any questions,
I don't see.
then
It takes time, but
then it's also good, and you can digest and think if we want to join in the 20th of December, and maybe you have questions there. So it's also, and yes, you can reach out to John anytime, actually, for the call or whatever questions you might have. So I think we close it, and thank you, John, thank you, Laura.
thank you both. Yeah, and watching.
Yeah,
thanks
see you.
everybody
See you.
for listening.